The Rosewood estate was magnificent in the late afternoon sun. Manicured gardens stretched across 3 acres, white chairs lined the lawn in perfect rows, and an arch covered in pale pink roses stood against the backdrop of rolling hills. My son Daniel's wedding was exactly what his fiancée, Vanessa, had envisioned: elegant, expensive, and exclusive. I sat in the second row on the groom's side, wearing a tasteful lavender dress I'd chosen specifically because Vanessa had mentioned the wedding colors were soft pastels. My husband, Tom, sat beside me, uncomfortable in his suit but smiling because our son was getting married. "Beautiful day," Tom whispered as the string quartet played. "It is," I agreed, though I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach that I couldn't quite explain. The past year of wedding planning had been difficult. Vanessa had very specific ideas about everything, and those ideas rarely included input from Daniel's family. Guest list discussions had turned into arguments. The rehearsal dinner had been tense. And this morning, when I'd offered to help with any last-minute preparations, Vanessa's mother, Patricia, had looked at me as if I'd suggested setting fire to the venue. "Everything is under control, Margaret," Patricia had said coolly. "We have professionals handling this. Perhaps you should just focus on being a guest." But I was trying to push those moments aside. This was Daniel's wedding day. My baby boy was getting married. That's what mattered. The processional music began, and the wedding party started their entrance. Bridesmaids in blush pink gowns, groomsmen in charcoal suits. Daniel walked out with the officiant, looking nervous and excited, his eyes scanning the crowd until they found mine. I smiled at him, and he smiled back. A genuine smile that reminded me of the little boy who used to run to me with every scraped knee and hurt feeling. Then the music changed to the wedding march, and everyone stood. Vanessa appeared at the end of the aisle, and I had to admit she looked stunning. Her dress was an elaborate confection of silk and crystals, her veil trailing behind her like a cloud. Her father, Gregory, escorted her, beaming with pride. As they passed my row, Vanessa's eyes flicked toward me. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly, and she looked away quickly, as if even acknowledging my presence might ruin her perfect moment. The ceremony began. The officiant spoke about love and partnership, about 2 families becoming one. I felt Tom squeeze my hand, both of us emotional about watching our son take this step. "Marriage is about more than just 2 people," the officiant said. "It's about the joining of families, the blending of traditions, the creation of new bonds while honoring the old ones." Vanessa shifted slightly, and I saw her exchange a look with her mother in the front row, a look I couldn't quite read. The ceremony continued through the readings, the vows, the exchange of rings. Daniel's voice cracked with emotion as he promised to love and cherish Vanessa. She remained composed, her vows delivered with the precision of a rehearsed speech. "If anyone has any objections to this union," the officiant announced, "speak now or forever hold your peace." The traditional pause. No one ever actually objects at weddings. It's just a formality, a holdover from. Actually, Vanessa's voice rang out, clear and sharp, "I have something to say before we continue." A confused murmur rippled through the guests. Daniel's face showed complete bewilderment. "Vanessa? What?" "This is important, Daniel. Just give me a moment." She turned to face the assembled guests, still holding Daniel's hands but addressing the crowd. "I want to thank everyone for being here today. Your presence means the world to us. Well, most of your presence." The murmur grew louder. I felt Tom stiffen beside me. "When I imagined my perfect wedding," Vanessa continued, her voice taking on an edge, "I imagined being surrounded by people who truly support us. People who understand us. People who belong in our world and share our values." "Vanessa," Daniel said, his voice carrying a warning tone. "What are you doing?" "I'm being honest, Daniel. Something we'd agreed on, remember? No pretense. No fake politeness." She scanned the crowd, and her eyes landed directly on me. "Margaret." My breath caught. Tom's hand gripped mine so tightly it hurt. Margaret, I'm sure you mean well. I'm sure in your own way, you think you're being supportive. But the truth is, Vanessa paused, and I saw her mother nodding encouragingly from the front row. The truth is, you don't belong here. You've never belonged in our world, and frankly, having you here is a reminder of everything Daniel is trying to move beyond. The gasps from the guests were audible now. Daniel's best man took a step forward, his face shocked. But Daniel himself seemed frozen, caught between his mother and his bride. Vanessa, stop, I heard myself say quietly. Please don't do this. Don't do what? Tell the truth? Vanessa's voice rose. You've been undermining me since the day Daniel introduced us. Questioning my decisions, offering your suggestions, trying to insert yourself into every aspect of our wedding. This is my day, Margaret. Mine and Daniel's. And I will not have it tainted by someone who shops at outlet stores and thinks Olive Garden is fine dining. Laughter, actual laughter, came from a few of Vanessa's friends in the crowd. My face burned with humiliation. That's enough, Tom said, standing up. You can't talk to my wife like that. I can talk however I want at my own wedding, Vanessa shot back. And honestly, Tom, you're not much better. Daniel has told me about your family, the small-town values, the modest lifestyle, the complete lack of sophistication. That's fine for you, but Daniel and I are building something different. Something better. I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to defend us, to stop this. But Daniel just stood there, his face pale, his mouth opening and closing without words coming out. So here's what's going to happen, Vanessa said, her voice filled with authority. Margaret, Tom, I want you to leave. Right now. Get out. You don't belong at this wedding, and honestly, I don't want you in our lives going forward. Vanessa. Daniel finally found his voice. You can't. I can, and I am. It's either them or me, Daniel. Choose. The entire venue fell silent. 200 guests holding their breath. Daniel looked at me, then at Vanessa, then back at me. I saw the conflict in his eyes, the fear, the confusion. Daniel started. I don't. Choose, Daniel, Vanessa repeated. Them or me. I couldn't watch this anymore. I couldn't watch my son be forced to make this choice in front of hundreds of people. I couldn't let him be torn apart like this, even if, especially if, it meant sacrificing my own heart. It's okay, Daniel, I said softly, standing up. We'll go. Mom, no. It's okay. I kept my voice steady even though I was shattering inside. It's your wedding day. We don't want to ruin it. Tom stood beside me, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. Margaret. Let's go, Tom. I gathered my purse and started to move toward the aisle. The guests in my row shifted to let us pass, their faces showing shock, sympathy, and, in some cases, uncomfortable relief that the scene was ending. But as I reached the aisle, I heard another sound. Shuffling. Movement. Chairs scraping against the grass. I turned and saw Daniel's brother, Michael, standing up. His wife, Sarah, stood with him, her face angry and determined. If Mom and Dad are leaving, Michael said loudly, then so are we. Michael, don't be ridiculous. Vanessa started. I'm not being ridiculous. You just humiliated my parents at what's supposed to be a celebration of family. I won't stay and pretend that's okay. Sarah nodded. Neither will I. She looked directly at Vanessa. What you just did was cruel and inexcusable. Then Daniel's sister, Emma, stood up, tears streaming down her face. I'm leaving too. Mom and Dad have done nothing but try to be supportive, and this is how you treat them. Emma's husband stood with her. Then Daniel's cousin, Jake. Then Jake's entire family. Wait, everyone just. Vanessa's voice had lost its authority, taking on a note of panic. But the exodus had started, and it wasn't stopping. Tom's brother stood up with his wife. We came to celebrate family, not witness this disgrace. My sister, Rose, stood up, her voice shaking with fury. Margaret is the kindest person I know, and I will not sit here while you treat her like garbage. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel's college roommate stood up. Mrs. Thompson, you and Mr. Thompson took me in for Thanksgiving when I couldn't afford to fly home. I'll never forget that kindness. I'm with you. One of Daniel's coworkers stood. The Thompsons sponsored my sister's scholarship fund. I won't stay here. A woman I didn't recognize stood up, one of Vanessa's guests, based on where she was sitting. I'm Jennifer, Vanessa's college friend, and I'm ashamed to have witnessed this. Mrs. Thompson, I apologize on behalf of basic human decency. More of Vanessa's side stood, her aunt and uncle, her cousin, a bridesmaid, one of her own bridesmaids, walked down from the altar, stripped off her bouquet, and joined the exodus. This is insane. Vanessa shouted, "You're all insane. This is Namai Wei Diang." But they kept standing, kept walking. A tide of people flowing toward the aisle, toward me, toward basic decency and respect. Gregory, Vanessa's father, stood up from the front row, his face purple with rage, but not at us. At his daughter. Vanessa Marie, I taught you better than this. I'm ashamed. Daddy, you said. I said nothing that would justify this cruelty. Your mother and I. He looked at Patricia, who remained seated, her face a mask of shock. Patricia, we're leaving. Gregory, our daughter. Our daughter just destroyed her own wedding with her cruelty. I won't be part of it. Patricia stood slowly, looking torn between her husband and her daughter, but ultimately followed Gregory. Within 5 minutes, the beautiful garden venue was nearly empty. Of the 200 guests, perhaps 15 remained, mostly members of Vanessa's immediate family who looked too stunned to move. I stood at the back of the aisle, Tom beside me, surrounded by a crowd of people, my family, Daniel's friends, even strangers who'd chosen kindness over comfort. The wedding had been asked to leave had essentially left me instead. Daniel stood at the altar, absolutely frozen, watching his wedding dissolve around him. Vanessa spun in a circle, looking at the empty chairs, the abandoned ceremony, the complete collapse of her perfect day. No, 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 this isn't. This can't. Vanessa, the officiant said quietly, perhaps we should postpone. Pivostpone. Her voice cracked. Everyone is Uli Viang. They're all leaving. The string quartet had stopped playing. The photographer was packing up his equipment. Even the wedding coordinator was on her phone, presumably dealing with a catastrophe unfolding before her. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt triumphant. But all I felt was profound sadness, for the wedding that had imploded, for the relationship between my son and me that might never recover, for the young woman at the altar who let cruelty and arrogance destroy her own happiness. Mom. Daniel's voice cut through the chaos. He was walking down the aisle toward me, leaving Vanessa standing alone at the altar. Mom, please, I'm so sorry. I should have stopped her. I should have. Daniel, don't, I said quietly. This is your wedding day. Your bride. My bride just tried to throw my parents out of my wedding, Daniel said, his voice breaking. My bride made me choose between her and you, and I froze like a coward. Vanessa had followed him down the aisle. Daniel, what are you doing? Come back. We can still. The ceremony can still. Can still what, Vanessa? Daniel turned to face her. Can still happen in an empty venue? Can still proceed after you humiliated my family? After you made me complicit in that humiliation by not standing up to you? I was doing it for us? Vanessa's perfect makeup was running now, tears and mascara streaking her face. Don't you see? They were holding you back. Your family with Their normal jobs and their simple lives were meant for more than that. More than what? More than kindness, more than respect, more than the values my parents taught me, more than mediocrity. The remaining guests gasped. Even Patricia looked shocked by that statement. Daniel shook his head slowly. My parents aren't mediocre, Vanessa. My dad has worked at the same manufacturing plant for 30 years, provided for his family, and never once made anyone feel lesser for their job or their income. My mom volunteered at the community center every week, helped countless kids with tutoring, and treated everyone, with dignity and respect. Daniel. I thought I loved you. I thought we wanted the same things. But what we wanted, it wasn't a life together. It was an image. A perfect picture that looked good from the outside, but had nothing real underneath. Don't do this, Vanessa whispered. Please don't do this. Not here. Not in front of everyone. You did this, Vanessa. Not me. Not my mom. You. He turned back to me, his eyes full of tears. Mom, I don't know if you can forgive me for not standing up for you immediately. I don't know if I can forgive myself. But I need you to know. I choose you. I choose my family. I choose the values you taught me over whatever this was supposed to be. I pulled my son into a hug, feeling him shake with sobs against my shoulder. Tom joined us, wrapping his arms around both of us. Behind us, I heard Vanessa's voice, high and desperate. Someone call them back. Call the guests back. We can still. This can still work. But no one was calling anyone back. The garden was empty except for the wreckage of an elaborate wedding that had destroyed itself from within. The aftermath was chaotic and painful. The wedding was officially called off right there in the garden. Vanessa's family tried to salvage something, suggesting a smaller ceremony with just immediate family, but Daniel refused. I can't marry someone who would do what she did, he told them. I can't build a life with someone who values appearances over people. The next few weeks were difficult. Daniel moved back home temporarily, processing everything that had happened. Vanessa called repeatedly, texting, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to angry to desperate. Her parents reached out, trying to mediate, but Daniel was firm in his decision. She showed me who she really is, he told me one evening as we sat on the back porch. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. We see what we want to see when we're in love, I said gently. Were we in love, or was I just in love with the idea of someone like her wanting someone like me? Only you can answer that, sweetheart. He was quiet for a long moment. You know what the worst part is? I almost let her do it. I almost let her throw you and Dad out. I stood there like an idiot, frozen, because I was afraid of making a scene, of ruining the wedding. How pathetic is that? You were in an impossible situation. You were in an impossible situation, Mom. I just failed to meet the moment. He looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. How do I come back from that? How do I fix the fact that I didn't defend you when it mattered most? You did defend us, Daniel. Maybe not immediately, but you did. And you made the right choice when it counted. After everyone else had already stood up for you. After Michael and Emma and complete strangers showed more spine than I did. Those people stood up because they know who we are. Because we've built relationships based on respect and kindness. That doesn't happen overnight, Daniel. That's a lifetime of choices, of treating people well, of being there when it matters. I want that, he said quietly. I want to be someone people stand up for because they know I'd do the same. Not someone who freezes when my own mother is being humiliated. Then be that person, starting now. 3 months later, I got a letter in the mail. Not from Daniel. He was living in his own apartment now, had taken a new job in the city, and we talked regularly. This letter was from Vanessa. I almost threw it away without reading it, but Tom encouraged me to at least see what it said. Dear Margaret, I've started this letter 100 times and never found the right words. I'm not sure there are right words for what I did. I want to say I'm sorry, but sorry feels inadequate for the pain I caused you, Tom and Daniel. I humiliated you at what should have been a celebration. I tried to force your son to choose between his family and me. I let my own insecurities and desperate need for perfection turn me into someone cruel. I've spent these months in therapy, trying to understand how I became that person standing at the altar, saying those things. My therapist says I've been performing for an invisible audience my entire life, always worried about how things look rather than how they feel. She's right. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that what happened that day, watching everyone leave, watching my perfect wedding collapse, watching Daniel choose you over me, it was the most painful and most important moment of my life. Because it showed me the difference between people who love conditionally and people who love for real. You raised a good man, Margaret. He deserves better than who I was. Maybe someday I'll become who I should have been all along. I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. Vanessa. I folded the letter and set it on the kitchen table. Tom read it over my shoulder. What do you think? He asked. I think she's young, and she made terrible mistakes. I think she's starting to understand that. Will you write back? I don't know. Maybe someday. But not now. I looked at the letter again. She needs to figure out who she is without an audience, and Daniel needs to heal without reopening that wound. Tom nodded. You're a better person than I am. I'm still angry. I'm angry too. But I'm also a mother. And someday, maybe years from now, if she's done the work to become someone different, maybe there's a conversation to be had. Always making room for redemption, Tom said, kissing the top of my head. That's what family does, I replied. Real family, anyway. A year later, Daniel met someone new. Her name was Rachel. She was a social worker, and the first time she came to dinner at our house, she showed up in jeans and a sweater, helped me set the table without being asked, and spent an hour talking to Tom about his work at the plant. Genuinely interested, genuinely curious. After dinner, as she and Daniel were leaving, she hugged me goodbye. Thank you for dinner, Margaret. This is what I always imagined family dinners should feel like. After they left, I found Tom in the living room smiling. That one's a keeper, he said. That one knows what matters, I agreed. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Met Rachel tonight. She's perfect. And she actually likes us. Progress. Emma texted. If Daniel doesn't marry this one, I'm adopting her as my sister. I smiled and sent back. One wedding catastrophe is enough. Let's let them take their time. But as I got ready for bed that night, I thought about that day in the garden. The day everything fell apart. The day I learned that the values Tom and I had tried to instill in our children, the relationships we'd built with kindness and respect, the life we'd lived with integrity, all of it mattered. Because when it counted, when I needed them most, people stood up. Family stood up. Friends stood up. Even strangers stood up. Not because of what we had, or how we looked, or what we could give them, but because of who we were. And in the end, that was worth more than any perfect wedding could ever be.